Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using some new products from Pretty Pink Posh. Pretty Pink Posh recently released lots of fun new products in their June release. In today's video, I'll be using the Rocketship Shaker die set, the City Buildings die set. For a sentiment, I have their For You Shadow die set. I will be making a shaker card, and I'll fill up the image using the new Starry Galaxy mix. For the background of my card, I will be using pattern paper from Brutus Monroe. I'm using the Watercolor Galaxy collection, and I believe this is a retired collection. I cut out 3 of the city building silhouette pieces from black cardstock, and I'll glue all 3 of the die cut pieces together for a little extra dimension. I could pop up the image using foam dimension, but I always have scrap pieces of cardstock on hand, and I really don't want a lot of dimension for the city silhouette. I have one final layer to adhere, and since I'm using glue, I do have a little bit of wiggle time to get everything adjusted and lined up straight. Once I have all 3 of the die cut pieces adhered together, I'll put glue on the back and adhere it at the bottom of my panel. And I selected this beautiful purpley pink blue starry sky for the background. I've already adhered my card front onto a card base. This is an American Standard A2 size card, 5.5 inches by 4.25 inches. I'll place a large acrylic block on top for some added weight while the glue dries. Now I'll set aside the card and start working on the image and the sentiment. I'll assemble the Rocketship shaker first. I cut out the background piece and that front shaker frame from some white shimmer cardstock. I've already attached some acetate on the back side. Now it's time to add some thin foam strips. That way there's enough space on the inside to add the shaker mix. I'm using scrapbook.com's 1/8 inch foam strips in the 2mm thickness. I'll first add strips around that inside frame, making sure all the foam pieces are touching each other. Don't want to lose any of the shaker mix. If you remove the backing from the foam strips, it's easy to manipulate around the curves. I have one final piece to put on the left side. Then I will add more foam strips on the wings and the tail of the rocket ship. That way everything stays at the same level. I could use some different foam shapes in the same 2mm thickness, but since I've already pulled out the thin foam strips, I may as well use them. I have one final side to add some foam. I did need to move one of the pieces since it was hanging off the edge just a tiny bit. Now I'll remove the release paper. Now I'll fill up the Rocketship shaker using the new Starry Galaxy mix. It has blue, purple, black confetti pieces, plus some teeny tiny stars and moons. And the stars and moons glow in the dark. So fun. I'm trying to make sure to get a good assortment of all the different confetti pieces. Sometimes you'll end up with a few defective looking confetti pieces. I always pull those out. I'll pull out a few extra stars and moons to fill inside the rocket ship. Now I'll seal everything in place with the back side of the rocket ship die cut piece. I probably could have filled up the rocket ship just a little bit more, but I still think it looks fun. For the rocket ship's wings, I used some light blue pearlescent cardstock, put glue on the back and adhere both of those down. And since I am adhering specialty cardstock on top of specialty cardstock, it does take a little bit longer for everything to adhere. So I will place an acrylic block on top for some extra weight. For the very top of the rocket ship and the tail, I used some silver holographic cardstock that has sort of a glittery look to it. Super sparkly. Put glue on the back and adhere those pieces in place. And I'll also put the acrylic block on top while the glue dries. For the little flame, I cut it out from orange glitter cardstock. I'm tucking it in between the two layers. So I'll put just a tiny bit of glue on the back side of the flame, flip over the rocket ship, and to help secure it in place, I'll add a strip of double-sided adhesive tape. Once the glue dries, the pieces will not come apart, but I like to use a little extra adhesive just to make sure everything stays together. Now I'll glue down the final two pieces, two little windows on the side of the rocket, and I cut those out of purple cardstock. I'll put glue on the back and adhere the two small windows in place. So there is my rocket ship shaker all assembled. Love how this turned out. For the sentiment, I'll be adding "For You." This is one of the new die sets from Pretty Pink Posh. I love the font they use for their word die sets. It includes the word and also the shadow. For the words, I use the same purple cardstock that I use for the windows on the rocket ship. And for the shadow of the words, I'm using some light purple cardstock. I'll glue the word onto the shadow, and I am using a pair of reverse tweezers to hold those small die cut pieces. Now I'll adhere the shaker rocket ship. I'll put glue on the back and adhere it right above the silhouette buildings. I think it's fun how giant the rocket ship is compared to the buildings. I also need to remove the release paper that's holding the flame at the bottom of the rocket ship. I'll place a large acrylic block on top while the glue dries. Now I'll add the sentiment in the lower right-hand corner, and I am adhering it on the silhouette buildings. Behind the very top of the F, I will put some foam dimension. Then I'll put glue on the back, adhere the word "For," and then add "You" underneath, more on the right side. The new release from Pretty Pink Posh does include a fun space-themed stamp set called Outer Space. There's an image of a rocket ship and a bunch of planets, plus 3 sentiments. The sentiments would be perfect on this card, but I decided to go with the larger "For You" sentiment. For a little extra detail in the starry sky, I'll add some of the glow-in-the-dark stars from the Starry Galaxy mix. I'm pouring some of the mix in a small wooden bowl. It's a little easier to dig through the mix so I can pull out those tiny stars. I'll add a small drop of Barely Art glue, pick up the stars using Scrapbook.com's Craft Pro Pick tool. I'm using the wax tip. Then I'll pick up the stars and press them in place. I'll add 3 of the stars on the left side of the rocket ship and 4 on the right side. After adhering one of the stars down, I didn't really like the shape. It was slightly defective, so I did remove it and added a different star. For a final finishing touch, using a white gel pen and adding a few highlights on the windows and wings of the rocket ship. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design, but for the second card, I didn't make a shaker. Instead, I used some light purple cardstock for the main body of the rocket ship. That's one thing that's really fun about Pretty Pink Posh's shaker die sets. You don't have to use them for shaker cards, but it's fun to have the option. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. And I will add a link to the new release if you want to check out the rest of the products. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.